it was pretty late in the day, and I think a couple of sort of more famous and better paid actors, British actors, had suddenly become unavailable, and I blessed them for that. And so for the first time practically in my life, I got the job without having to do anything except answer the phone, which was very nice, and found myself in a surreal position of sitting under a palm tree in Santa Monica talking to Roman Polanski.
Wow.
On the phone. And I got the job.
What had, prior to that interaction, what had Polanski's films meant to you in your life?
I was a fully paid up member of the test generation. I was about, I think, I don't want to check the dates, but I think maybe about 14 or 15 when Test came out. So I was passionate about Thomas Hardy and loved the film and every frame of it, and I thought he nailed it completely. Even though he cast a Slovakian beauty as Tess, I didn't mind. He was right. She looked right, and she was very like many of his films, the sort of blank canvas onto which everything else happens. And that seems to be a sort of theme in his films. There's this sort of person to whom extraordinary things happen, which it seems to be kind of the story of his life in some ways. And so I loved that, and that took me to Rosemary's Baby, and he directed me to Cul-de-sac and Knife in the Water as particular references for this. And then I watched to sort of try and find out what he was like. I watched the DVD extras on Chinatown, which was very informative about what I should expect.
Well, that was a curiosity of mine, because I'm wondering what you were expecting and what you wound up getting from him.
Well, you should watch the DVD extras of Chinatown. Maybe you have, but there's a famous anecdote on that, which everybody tells, Roman and Faye Dunaway included, that it was a shot over her shoulder onto Jack Nicholson, and a single hair of hers kept sticking up in the middle of the lens, and a hairdresser came over and sprayed it and stuck it down, and it pinged up again. And so from the camera where he always sits, he reached out and basically pulled it out of her head, at which point she stormed off the set. And so, you know, I thought, okay, this is going to be a ride. And then there was one scene where he came over to me and said, "Your ear is bizarre." And I thought, oh my God, he's actually going to do the Faye Dunaway. He's going to cut my ear off because it's in the way of the sound. But he never did that. He is. There's a reason why he's a great filmmaker, and that's because he makes sure everything that is in every frame is exactly how he wants it to be. And actors are the same as, you know, beams of light and chairs and objects and tables and sunsets and clouds. They have to be where he needs them to be in order to make the picture right.
So when you think Polanski's films, I mean, always in my mind I have the imagery. I mean, he's such a great visual stylist and master. Can you feel that when you're on his sets? Definitely.
And as I said, that nothing happens on a Polanski movie by accident. We were cursed with good weather when we were shooting in Zult, and he wanted heavy cloud and strong winds, but no rain, and on the scenes I was in, and certainly no sunshine. And we were blessed with blue skies and not a breath of wind, and we simply didn't shoot. But that could equally be, you know, an actor that refuses to stand where he wants them to stand, and he won't shoot then either. But this is all told with absolute admiration and affection. You know, that is how he works, and because he produces such extraordinary results, you want to help him create the vision that he sees in his head.
Right. But your approach as an actress, your process as an actress in a Polanski film, How was it different from working under other directors?
Well, what he is very admiring and respectful of actors, but what he admires and respects is the ability to create a sort of living, breathing, natural person, whether or not within the parameters he creates. And so in a way, you're welcome to have any process you want, as long as you can do what he asks while having your process. So I had fortunately, I'm not a particularly sort of method actor. I don't rely on sort of instinct and how I'm feeling at the time to create the characters. So I tend to be reasonably sort of responsive and reactive to what's going on in a technical way as well as in an emotional way. So I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it and learnt a lot.
And I would think that there was a rehearsal process, so you know exactly what he wants. Exactly.
Yes. We rehearsed the evening before. Fortunately, I was working opposite Ewan, who'd been there for a month already, and he actually gave us all, both me and Pierce and Kim, a sort of little what it's like to work with Roman demonstration before our first day. He does an extremely good impersonation of Roman, and he said, you're going to sit down. He'll ask you to read, and after about 3 words he'll stop you. Then he'll read it the way he wants you to do it. You copy him, and off you go.
Wow.
As I said, all this is said with great respect and affection.
Oh well, we love his films on our show. We did a tribute last year to Polanski's films, so I'm absolutely on board with his work. With your character, what was the main kind of feeling or sense that you wanted to convey with that character?
It's important that you meet her as you should meet everyone in his films, really, at in the middle of a crisis. The ghostwriter moves in to this story, and everyone is really already at the sort of most dramatic point in their life. But Ruth is a woman who has given up her own political ambition to serve that of her husband, and I think as an intellectual decision she probably thought she could do it, but she's learnt that she can't, and there's an anger and a bitterness in her, and a sort of impatience with stupidity. She's given up any idea of being pleasing or charismatic or alluring. She doesn't not only not suffer fools gladly, she sort of doesn't suffer them at all. That was my main sort of thrust with her, is that she isn't looking to make friends really at any point. Which, as an actress, I spend my life trying to be nice and make people love me, and so it was quite a relief to play someone who wasn't looking to have any fans by the end of the day. And the other thing, as in a few roles I've played, was to not give away my subtext.
When you're doing it, when you're in the process of doing it, do you ever feel like you've got it, or do you always have an uncertainty of whether or not you've reached the place you need to be?
I'm quite childish when I act. I sort of come away from a day's filming feeling sort of quite euphoric. Even in the sort of comparatively isolated experience of filming, where there's no audience or sort of a round of applause at the end of the day, I get very I get on a bit of a high from it. So I quite often hear a sort of soundtrack of cheering crowds, and that's probably a self-deception that's important, or I wouldn't be able to do it, and then come down with a bump when there's a hideous raft of reviews at the end of the day. But I think it's important to maintain a certain sort of delusion that it's all going terribly well, or one wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, when you finally watch the finished film, did anything about it surprise you?
The thing that amazed me, because I was there and I was in the room, and experienced it firsthand, was the atmosphere of cold that he managed to create. I don't know how he did it, but that complete sense of isolation and everything. The Thai servant Deb. She was a hilarious and chatty and smiley woman, and he made her into this completely terrifying presence. Whenever she opened a door, she would give this look of sort of threatening subversiveness. And I just from doing the ADR, watching about 4 minutes of the film to revoice some of it, I came away sort of physically cold from having watched just 4 minutes of it. So that was the surprise, is that, the Polanski effect, he created a complete world, and seems to be able to do it in a few seconds of film.
Yeah. I'm curious to know your relationships with the other directors that you've worked with, and what you've learned from them, because you've worked with some wonderful filmmakers and some very, very terrific and unique films. And wasn't it Kevin Costner that first kind of taught you the craft of acting in a way, really took an investment in you in that way?
Not in a way, in every way. Yes, he did. I was very lucky that he was the star and the director and the producer of The Postman, and his way of working was to act the scene and then walk around and watch it on the monitor and go, we need a bit more of this and a bit less of that. And so any idea of being sort of shy or disingenuous about being able to watch myself on screen had to be banished immediately. You just had to go and watch yourself and be critical and technical. And yet he's a complete master of the screen. He knows every trick, but also every sort of emotional truth there is to be told about filmmaking and acting on film. So he was my masterclass, really. I owe a lot to him.
Do you find that's valuable? Because obviously Mr. Costner is a very accomplished actor in his own right, and even Polanski, as you've described, would act out scenes for you and tell you exactly what he wanted. Do you find that's a valuable situation there?
Well, I do, and it's completely personal. It's it's how I am. I don't expect anybody else to be the same, but yeah, that's how I have learnt to work, and I like working like that. And sometimes I have to say, directors are quite surprised when I say, "What do you want me to do?" they thought, "Oh, I thought you were going to do something, and I was going to film it." And I can do that too if you want me to. But that, in a way, I think maybe this comment I know is going to come back and bite me in the ass. I should stop saying it, but maybe that the cult of the actors got a little bit too powerful in this relationship, and there's a bit of an idea that, if a director wants you to do something different, they come up and go, that was great, really great, perhaps maybe this time you wouldn't mind trying, possibly. And I don't think they should have to be so apologetic about that. I think the skill of an actor should be, to interpret the director's vision if you believe in the project, the job that you've taken.
Some of my friends are going to kill me if I don't ask you about working with Joss Whedon, that collaboration.
Well, that was another heavenly job that fell into my lap. My agent told me I was going to speak with him on the phone, and I was in London, and we ended up just chatting about the stuff, and at the end of the phone call he offered me a job, and I have to confess I didn't know his work before that day, and I put the phone down and said to my husband, I think we're going to go and live in LA for a year and work on a Joss Whedon show. And we got on terribly. I was very lucky because he wouldn't entrust writing my character to any other writers, so all Adele DeWitt scenes were written by Joss Whedon, and he and I became good friends. I value him both as a director and a writer and a friend.
Is it a different discipline to perform in television as opposed to film, or is it all the same?
It is the thing about episodic television in quite a pretentious way is that if you can imagine getting a script for a film or a play, you read the script and you know where your character starts and you know where it ends. With episodic television, anything you do any one time has to be interpretable in the light of events that happen in the next episode that nobody's read or even written yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what maybe even considered my sort of career speciality, which is being able to go back and look at a performance and go, is she a widow, or is she a woman who's being cheated on? Anything I did in the Dollhouse had to be interpretable as goody or baddie, depending which way the next episode went.
Right.
So that was the sort of the messing with my head that was doing that, which I loved, and the direction I ended up going was I hadn't predicted. Joss said he likes to take his characters where he finds his actors going in their lives. What he finds out about them, he ends up putting in his TV shows, and the fact he ended up a sort of amoral drunk at the end of it, I hope isn't a reflection on my character. But might have had something to do with an evening or two we spent with a piano and too many bottles of wine.